What is that?
I'm just a mean green mother from outer space and I'm paid.
No, it's actually a compound mine named Grave Mine. The result of the flood eating too much meat and becoming so bloated they gain intelligence. Huh. Okay. Interesting concept. And in a way, it's already been established. We met a baby Gravemind earlier. Yeah, remember? We punched him good.
I am a monument to all your sins.
I don't exactly see how it's a sin to be eaten and mutated into melted tentacle flesh.
And I am the prophet of regret.
What? Regret is still alive? Well, if you can call it that. But retaining his intelligence suggests Chief did a pretty bad job at playing Ezio. You slapped him around for a while. How exactly is he still alive? You suck, Chief. Use a bullet next time. Well, anyways, this guy is pissed off because the Covenant are about to cancel his reservation and decides to get Chief and the Arbiter to work together by teleporting them away from each other. Huh.
We're gonna do things my way.
Oh well, so long as he teleports them in a safe area that allows him to get there. The fuck? He drops Chief right in the middle of High Charity. I guess he's really evil, trying to get Chief killed. Don't know why he couldn't just leave him for death. So, Gravemind makes you interrupt Truth's YouTube channel.
Boo.
Oh, come on, really? Fucking... Wait, an Eatler? Are you fucking kidding me? What the hell am I gonna do with this? Even though you've seen them before, now we finally get a chance to fight these monkeys. Brutes are aggressive, heavy infantry, somewhere between elites and hunters. They have a chance of going berserk, where they'll drop their weapon and attempt to rush you down with a clothesline. They may not have shields, but they're pretty resilient to most weapons, to the point that they're actually friggin' annoying. Seriously, they're mostly just bullet sponges, requiring a lot of firepower to take them out. Due to this fact, you're most likely going to avoid shooting them down and instead rely on the headshot capabilities of the BR or carbine to get you an instant victory. But even that requires an extra shot, as the first burst will only knock off their helmets. Aside from that, you can actually take them out with a plasma grenade stick. Just hope they're not berserking when you do. And you can also use a Needler, I guess? Especially when they're berserking, since they can't dodge to the sides. But even so, that doesn't change how unfair the beginning of this level is. Armed with only a Needler and no cover was just bad fucking design. They have ranged weapons, you don't, and even if you knock out a grunt, you'll still be at a disadvantage. The only safe way is to immediately break the game by jumping up into these stands that you're not supposed to go up into, and stealing a carbine from another brute. Okay, there's seriously something wrong where you have to break the game to get through an area. They also bring in a new, quote-unquote, weapon called the Brute Plasma Rifle. It's more or less a reskin. Yeah, I know it has a slightly higher firing rate, which also means it can overheat faster, but it's still not enough of a difference to be justified as a new weapon. It's just a reskin and fucking lazy. They could have easily made more differences, like the blue version being stronger, slower, and more accurate, so that it'll be much better suited for mid-range, while the red version will be more suited for close range. Even then, I'd still ask for a different weapon.
Put me down on one of the pedestals near the door.
Oh yeah, let's throw Cortana into the network of High Charity. I'm sure they don't have any firewalls, isolation programs, or emergency protocols. Well, fuck me, they don't.
Watch out for the captain. He's got a brute shot.
Brute shot? Oh no! Was that warning really necessary? Especially when you spoil the surprise of finding a new weapon? So yeah, let's talk about the brute shot. It's a fairly decent weapon, pretty much a very accurate grenade launcher. Despite what the incorrect reticle might suggest, the grenades do a pretty decent job of defying gravity. It has a very small radius of splash damage, so it's better to directly hit enemies instead of going for the center of a group. Shackers are your best target, as it ignores their shield gauntlets. You can also save them against brutes themselves, but the problem with the brute shot is that the total ammo count and current magazine size is too small. You'll easily run out of ammo before you realise it and have to swap out. It wouldn't be bad if it was a power weapon, but its damage output doesn't really match up to the total amount you can carry. Worth picking up, but you better have a carbine in your back pocket. Hey, speaking of jackals, why aren't their shield gauntlets a usable weapon? I understand not being able to use them in Halo 1 due to the rush development, but why weren't they added to this game? Especially with their new system of dual wielding. Sacrificing offensive power for defensive power could really shake up the game.
You wouldn't believe the number of kill systems the Covenant are throwing down pretty sloppy stuff. I guess they never expected a hostile intelligence to penetrate their network from the inside.
Huh. Well, I guess they did take the time to explain why she hasn't been booted from the system. Too bad there's a chance the player might miss it. Man, what's up with these grav lifts? They feel like they're really lacking in detail. Seems too simple and advanced for the Covenant for a small circle of light to pick you up and shift you somewhere else.
If we're going to catch truth, we'll need to take a shortcut, straight through the mausoleum. Look on the bright side. Now they seem much more interested in killing each other.
Nope, still interested in killing me.
You might consider sitting this one out.
Technically, yes, but the path forward won't open until every enemy in the room is dead. A bit challenging since elites are heavily armed and brutes are fucking annoying. So you can approach this room any way you want. At least you have some sort of out of place heavy metal to listen to. Seriously, what's up with the inconsistent music?
This isn't good. I am getting confirmed reports of flood leaving in Amberclad's wreckage.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Way out of here.
My faith is strong. I will not fail.
Sure, drop your weapons. Hopefully you can defend the prophets with your fists. Oh wow, your entire race has only been working as personal security for a day, and you've already fucked up. You had one job.
Let him be. The great journey waits for no one, brother.
Well gee, if I didn't know better, I'd say you're trying to make Truth a one-dimensional villain for me to hate. What to say about this level. Running around High Charity is pretty neat. It allows you to see a different culture and how the Covenant live, so to speak. Most of the population will be in those buildings in the skybox that you might miss if you're not looking for it. So where exactly am I running around? Some buildings by the outer wall? It's neat that they added tiny details like plants and such to make the place seem more alive, but at the same time it also feels rather stale. It seems too clean to exist, even for the Covenant. The real change here are the brutes. I always welcome new enemy types, but the brutes are just bullet sponges, limiting your approach to tackling them. Pretty much limited to the carbine and plasma grenades, or abusing the layouts since they didn't program the ability to jump while berserking. The moments where they're fighting each other are actually pretty cool, and you don't need to hear Cortana chiming in to explain what's obviously occurring in front of you, which can be a problem for the player as they might just walk on before she starts talking and miss something, or it's drowned out by the gunfire, especially when subtitles aren't on. Which is an overall problem with Halo 2. Stuff happens and you can only notice if you're directly looking at it. Like, I completely missed the In a Shitty Name crashing in the background the first time I played this game. Although that might be because I was playing split screen, or I was switching out weapons, or something. One problem I have with this level is that there's such a brash use of colouring. I know that dark purple and blue are the Covenant main colours, but all their buildings and corridors didn't have to focus so much on them as well. The lighting is really low and the outside gardens look fucking dead. It also feels like it's repeating itself, only breaking up in the middle for the player to save some marines. Aside from those marines, there's nothing really to do in the Covenant city, just move down the same corridors. Really feels like I'm going in just one direction. Giving me something else to do would have helped, like how about actually breaking into a security room to hack Cortana into the network, or moving through other security rooms to unlock firewalls or something. At least she reacts to the player if you just piss fart around.
It's safe, really. Just step in. After that stunt on the Cairo, I know you're not afraid of heights. Fine. I won't watch. Meet you at the bottom, okay?
For the Covenant's capital city, it really feels empty. And why the fuck is this level even called Gravemind when the focus is pulled away from him at the very start?
You don't know what you're messing with.
Ah! Mate! You can't go from monotone colouring to something more vibrant so quickly. Ah, would you look at that? Gravemind teleported the Arbiter safely onto a cliff far away from enemy forces. You can tell who he favours. So right off the bat, the Arbiter comes across a plasma rifle. Ah, how convenient. Also pointless, as right up ahead is an energy sword, which was probably designed to be placed onto the map for the player before they programmed in weapons from the start. Maybe there was a glitch if an elite controlled character has no weapons, I don't know. What is a glitch though is this dying elite's mouth not moving when he starts talking to you.
Brutes that betrayed us. The counselors.
What's neat though is that if you can use camo effectively, you'll hear some unique dialogue of the brutes reacting to their missing allies, or if the player just rushes in.
Go see what's taking them so long.
They even added in some dialogue for simply moving ahead or waiting for these zealots.
Over so soon?
With elites as backups, we can now take on the Covenant, as the Covenant. You get some friendly grunts and even some hunters to help you. Thankfully it doesn't get too confusing. I guess you can thank the radar for that. Now we'll jump into a ghost. Wait, have I talked about a ghost yet? No? Okay then. So the ghost has had a few changes. First change, if you bother to look, is that the repeating cannons are now more accurate. I would complain about how there's no setback for the vehicle, but those weapons seem weak to the new ability the ghost has, which is boosting. Because of the ghost's hover height being lower, combined with the speed the ghost when boosting, you can pretty much just run over all infantry. I find it kind of stupid that shoving your bumper into enemies is more effective and honestly becomes the most common way. The physics of the game has been fixed and everyone doesn't die at the slightest tap, but with no penalty for boosting, it doesn't really matter. A simple boost meter would have sufficed enough. So you keep moving through the fucking sniping fucking shit until you come across this open area of more inconsistent landmarks. Now you take on raids on foot. Well, at least it's mixing up the variety of situations and matchups you can find yourself in. Although I would have put this matchup before you blow them up with a tank. So you abuse camo here and what the fuck is this? Boarding? The fuck is this? So yeah, here's a feature that I haven't seen done before or really since. You can hijack enemy vehicles to either destroy or commandeer them. It's a neat feature. You can kick off, steal, and immediately use a goes, yank off enemies from Warthog or Spectre, or jump onto a tank to kill the driver, or jump onto the back to open the engine to throw a grenade to blow it up. It's actually a really cool idea. Main problem though is that it was poorly implemented. There's nowhere in the game that adequately teaches you how to do it, or sets up a scenario where you can learn it yourself. This moment is the closest I could find that doesn't involve looking up the trailer. For such an important ability, you would think they'd take some time to introduce it better. Unless you accidentally blow up your own vehicle and just happen to come close to an enemy vehicle, you would really never know. They could have easily set up a moment to teach the player. Like while in the city as chief, you move through an open door and ghosts pull up shooting at distant allies. You'll be close enough to see the prompt. Or you're forced to fall down a hole or something and land right next to a ghost.
What vulgar taste. Even as trophies, these weapons are worthless.
Oi, fuck you, mate. Just for that, I'm going to force you to use an unlimited rocket launcher. Cockhead. So you finish out the level by meeting up with Ritas, who I have to say is pretty unmemorable. Only really known for a broken jaw if you look close enough.
The counselors, are they
Murdered by the brutes.
When? It sounds like an important detail to leave out. Was that to imply he just caught the Arbiter's scent? It's fucking stupid. Yes, is actually a nice level to play through though, and probably one of the more better levels out of the whole campaign. Changing up the scenery and gameplay variety, showing a bit of mystery to the Forerunners. Although you are forced to use a ghost in this section because the walk will be incredibly long otherwise. So Chief has a heart-to-heart with Mercy, and he somehow dies. Huh. You would think removing a parasite would make him feel better.
Forerunner ship. And Truth is heading straight for it. If he leads the Covenant fleet to Earth, they won't stand a chance. You have to stop him.
Stop him? By myself? Even if I can somehow manage to assassinate Truth, why the fuck would the Covenant suddenly all give up? If Truth starts a war on Earth, I doubt the rest of the forces will suddenly stop killing and maiming the second he goes down.
That brute has the index. And Miranda and Johnson. He can activate the ring.
If he does, I'll detonate in Emberclad's reactor just like we did the Autumns.
How? You're inside High Charity! How can you detonate a light cruiser's engines when you're not directly linked to it? And how do you know it will even destroy Halo? Last time we had a much bigger ship with more engines sitting on Halo. A smaller ship stuck inside a city floating some distance away from Halo probably won't have any effect aside from maybe a disturbance in its gravitational spin.
No, I don't want to chance a remote detonation.
But that's exactly what you're doing! You're triggering a remote detonation!
Flood-controlled dropships are touching down all over the city. That creature beneath the library, that grave mine, used us. We were just a diversion.
How exactly was Chief that much of a distraction? Or did he really expect Cortana to screw with everybody's equipment? Well, whatever, I'm gonna start being pissed off that I have to deal with the fucking flood again. Bloody hell, they have nothing new to show the player. Except for this biomass that I guess explains how they control the ships. There needs to be a new enemy type, like a really large hunter flood, even though the flood can't infect worms. Or like an advanced flood that's really huge with large tentacles. I don't know, call it a juggernaut or something. Fucking hell, look at how many loads I'm blowing into his face. Man, I really hate these fucking lifts. Suddenly switching from dark to light, it really hurts your eyes.
I'll do what I can to slow the launch sequence, but there's something inside the ship, a presence that's fighting back.
Oh hey, I look forward to Murderkent bias not being explained, halting your progress. A lot of biomass covering the halls. How fast does the flood spread? Despite the fact that we played a level in between, there's still only a short period of time between their arrival and their infection.
Parasite. Shall not defeat us.
Arrogant creature. While we shall suffer progress of infinitude.
How is the Gravemind communicating through the city? Or is that in Chief's head? Is he infected? Why? Why would he feel the need to reply like that? Especially when he's a little hard to understand. Okay, seriously, if they can affect this quickly, why did they really need the Chief as a distraction? I seriously want to know what Chief had to do in order to reach this level of infection. Man, there is nothing to this level. It's so boring. And this inner sanctum just looks like every other room. At least I can play with the physics some more with these. Ouch.
Ships are engaging one another all around High Charity.
You know, you'd think the Brutes and Elites would delay their little feud in order to deal with the flood.
I knew the Covenant was good at repurposing Forerunner technology, but this is amazing. They've been using the Forerunner ship's engines as an energy source for the city.
That's cool. I still think it's a badly designed ship. Final stretch for this level is pretty simple. Just run to the end. Don't even need to engage the flood. Oh, just skip how he managed to get up there. Lazy pricks. What exactly is he riding in? I doubt the Prophet used this lift that stretched across half the city.
Chief, when you get to Earth, good luck.
After I'm through with truth.
Don't make a girl a promise.
If you know you can't keep it.
Man, I am really fucking sick of this trailer talk. There's really nothing much to say about this level. They were trying to catch lightning twice and replicate the swamp. The level is very dark, and while the neon coloured corridors may seem cool, it's mostly boring. Especially combined with the fact that this is a retread through a previous level that had colouring problems itself. The environments have even less variety, especially when your line of sight is rather short. There's nothing new. You have to fight the flood again. The three-way fight has no real substance either. It's mostly forgettable. Only saving grace is that this level is one of the shortest.
We're out of time, Chief.
Before we go back to the Arbiter, let's have a chat about the overall game. The story seems to have had a shot in the arm. With the layer of politics and history of the Covenant, it gives the faction more life and doesn't make them come off as a one-note evil alien race. Especially thanks in part to the Arbiter being a playable character. His insight allows us to see how blind and faithful the Covenant truly are, while also allowing us to see they're not stupid and can come to their own conclusions. But there is a major problem to the story, and that problem is that the game is split between the two factions. Even with the extra levels and cutscenes, it's still not enough time to develop the story or characters. Not only that, but it does tend to jump around a lot, so there's no real indication of a beginning, middle, and end, the entire structure of a well-written story. While a much better writer could have probably pulled it off, I don't think Bungie has the experience to do so. So this decision only hurt the overall story. This problem also carries over to the characters. We don't get enough time to understand or care about the characters, old and new. While Chief and Cortana manage to keep up their playful attitude, once we shift to the Arbiter, we lose it, and even when we switch back, it kind of feels like it's been reset. Then at the end, it implies Cortana is sacrificing herself, and you expect me to give a shit. I actually give more of a damn over the Arbiter. Even then, his story doesn't feel complete. I need more time and reason to understand why he was stripped of his rank. I need more time to believe in the sudden betrayal. I need an actual arc that curves at a steady pace and doesn't just spike. Even when the brutes were taking everyone's hats, he doesn't seem to give a shit. When he sees them killing his brothers, yeah, no real comment. But at least they did take some time to give him some personality. Like how when he first gets dropped off with an energy sword, there's a slight smirk on his face as he looks upon his weapon activating. One could come to the conclusion that he's been captured and away from the field for so long that he's getting a sense of eagerness, going back to getting his hands dirty with the thrill of battle once again. As for all the other characters, fuck, they barely get any time to develop anything. I always forget Michelle's name. She doesn't really do anything except be a dick to her entire crew. Truth and Tartarus are just suddenly switched to being one-note evil. Everybody else dies or disappears for a while. Maybe if they focus on one side of the conflict, they could have had the time to further develop everybody. The one character that actually gets the most screen time is Al.
Say what?
Yeah, that one randomized Marine that stood out, he's now a main character. Being a main character, that means he can't stay in combat for long, lest his invulnerability becomes abused or breaks the immersion. Mostly being taken advantage of for being a fan favourite to deliver quips or memorable lines, sometimes in a smarmy way. To be fair though, it's actually not that excessive, because of the split campaign he's missing for about half the game, which I consider to be a good thing since I had to listen to his arrogant ass for the whole game or would end up fucking hating him.
Say what?
Don't overexpose the favourites, kids. There's a decent variety of environments to play through. Rather than try and reuse some assets from Halo 1, they went with designing each level to be unique to Halo 2. The different layouts regularly switch up, and you'll very rarely be fighting within the same area types. Aside from those shitty gondolas, it's a real improvement over Halo 1's reusing several levels, and there's a sense of discovery as you reach each new area, even if it's still within the same theme of the level. Little touches like moss growing around the areas also help with the pleasant design. But it's not the best designed setup. The problem is that a lot of the levels go on for way too long. Yeah, I know I just praised it, but hear me out. The levels are so long that they're actually split into two parts. Hey, just like the story. Because of this, the player can get fatigued for playing the same level twice in a row, and at times can really feel bloated. If you look at the mission select screen, you may think that there are 15 levels in the game, but if you remove the opening cutscene, the tutorial level, and count each two-part mission as one, there are only 7 levels in the whole game. So, in a way, it falls back into Halo 1's problem of reusing the same level. They just make it seem like they're not by stretching out the level instead of reusing it. There's so much that could have been cut to help the pacing. Do I really need a second gondola ride? Do I really need to go underwater? Do I really need to drive around, hop out, fight on foot, then jump into another vehicle when this whole area could have just been focused on vehicle combat against the Flood? To its credit, the second parts are usually different enough from the first that the scenarios and playstyle will be different. But unless it's really fun, or unless there's really a reason for me to do it, it does feel like padding most of the time. As for the art style and design of the characters,
I apologize, but we're going to have to make
fucking
this quick.
hell. Discarding the iconic cartoonish style, they opted to go for a realistic, quote-unquote, style, and it just looks bad. The characters look murky and muddy, unfinished, and you can spot the shortcuts they made. A lot of the characters' lips are stretched out and somehow manage to look worse than talking puppets. Any details on the characters just kinda hang off and do not feel like they're part of the character. I know that's how 3D modeling works, but artists try to at least hide it. Because of the designs and lighting effects, their covenants seem more muted. The brutes look ugly as sin. Prophets aren't much better either. The elite's shields seem to flare up brighter and thicker than usual, which always bugged me. This also applies to the sentinels. The Flood receives some better attention, looking more deformed and growing extra pieces of flesh. Even can see the remains of the host within. Although they have this annoying habit of suddenly popping into fart gas and being removed from the game. I prefer it when their bodies shatter onto the ground. For the UNSC side, geez, they all look like shit. The Marines look like their armor was slapped on. Close-up shots really show how bad it is. The only model that looks decent are the ODST troops. Cortana, jeez, was redesigned to be more feminine. Her purple was toned down and changed to blue. She's no longer really eccentric, and she's now designed for the player to feel calm when gawking at her. They managed to keep her attitude, even if you don't see much of it. At least they're not going so far as to give details on her toes. And why is her hair longer? She's an AI, why would she care? I originally thought of something like all AI change in appearance in some way based on the amount of data they accumulate through their lives, and for Cortana it would be her hair. Then I realized how fucking stupid that would be.
Pretty much.
Chief? I don't know. It's a realistic version of his previous version, but it now looks more generic. Funny, since his design established part of the Space Marine trope. His armor, technically marked V armor, is now more round and they paid more attention to his size in the suit as opposed to making him stand out with the suit. He's missing his lights, or rather shield emitters, and his Batman utility belt. So now he pulls ammo clips out of his ass. Looking back, you can see how sharp Chief is, which makes him stand out from being a cliche. His visor is more pointed out, his shoulder pads spike out more, and the area around his shoulder blades reach up higher. And for a new piece of armor, it sure does have a lot of scuffing wear. Did they focus test some kids trying to show off by saying Halo looked too childish for them? The weapons are also less impressive. They added more, but didn't really think about the variation. A lot of the weapons seem very similar to each other, in terms of power and usage at least. Any slight differences are hardly noticeable, but at least plasma bolts, bullets, and any other particle effects look really good. And don't think I'm judging the design and art style by today's standards. I thought this game looked dated when it was released. There's also some changes to the HUD. As I already mentioned, the shield bar was removed down to the radar, which was a bad design choice. I know why they placed it right above the radar though, to allow the player more information when looking down to that corner. Probably noticed during testing that some players weren't paying attention to the radar and wanted them to be more aware of it. Problem is that the player only needs to glance at the radar before looking forward to deal with the threat. Moving it down there means they have to have their eyes wander further away from the battle to learn how much shields they have left. Second, it's really hard to understand how much shields remain. Do your shields deplete to the line in front of the shield icon, or until it's completely empty? Not only that, but the curve around the radar can mess with your mind and make you wonder how much is remaining. Do the ends of the bar represent a stronger decline while the center is faster? It's also rather small and hard to notice without directly looking at it. See, when playing games, the player has this sort of mental filter with displays and details slapped over the screen. When playing a game for a while, all these HUD elements kind of merge into your immersion of the game, until the point you stop noticing them, and with good design, the player would notice important details in the corner of the eye when that information is relevant. Which is why using bars is better for the player as opposed to numbers, as they can see them in the corner of their eyes when something important is happening, but it's subtle enough to not break immersion. The shield bar is the most important detail in the HUD as it represents your life, so that information needs to be clear and precise. By moving it down into the corner, the player will need to regularly look down to check on it, breaking the mental filter which will also break immersion. Every time you get hit, you have to check if you need to take cover or not. It was better in Halo 1 as it was up in the corner by itself, so you will be able to notice it when it was empty or not, and the changing colours for your health was easy to understand. The sound effects are kinda hit and miss. The music still remains great, but at times feel inconsistent. The dialogue? Well, it actually got worse. Although I still love how they kept adding in dialogue for your actions. And they expanded some of the personalities for the Marines.
I heard that, jackass!
Now I'm going to talk about the biggest changes to the franchise, probably with opinions that will piss people off. The first major change is dual wielding. An awesome concept that's not new, but I believe is still better done in Halo. Problem is that they didn't really put much thought into the balance of the game. First issue is that pretty much all dual wield weapons are worthless by themselves. There's no real benefit from using a weapon by itself. You may be able to throw grenades, but you can easily drop your second weapon to do the same thing. Because of this, the player has less reason to actually use these weapons. If you're out of ammo for one hand, you're at a huge disadvantage until you find a new weapon. It would have been better if weapons in one hand gained an accuracy bonus, like the reticle was half the size until you picked up a second weapon. But even with two weapons, the big problem with this setup is that dual wield weapons are overall too weak to be considered useful, requiring a large amount of ammo wasting to end most encounters. Being mostly limited to short range, you'll find yourself using dual wielding less and less as the game goes on. Because of this, you'll pretty much only be using the battle rifle or carbine for the entire duration of the game. With their ability to land headshots and their super accuracy, that kind of defeats the purpose of a burst fire weapon, there's really no downside to using them. Because of brutes and fucking god fucking cricks bullshit, And Jackals, you'll pretty much always have to have one equipped. On Heroic and Legendary, it's pretty much essential to get anywhere. Just equip a BR and take out most enemy types. And up against an Elite, just charge a Plasma Pistol. It's pretty much the only combination you'll ever need. Yeah, you might have to switch to a Shotgun or Energy Sword when dealing with the Flood, but that's only for a couple of levels. I'm sorry, but that just makes the game fucking boring. It's like I'm playing Call of Duty. Oh, I can't believe I just said that. Fuck, I complained about the Magnum before, but at least I had the option of turfing it. With the extra layer of aim assist and hit scan, the BR makes that noisy cricket balanced. There are plenty of ways they could have balanced this. Up in the damage output of all other weapons, even if that might make dual wielding OP, or give those weapons the ability to land headshots, but then it might turn the game into a spray and pray, like Call of Duty. The smart decision would be to nerf a couple of weapons that throw off the balance, but then that would make Legendary a fucking nightmare. They really fucked the balance in this game, so I guess you should just equip a battle rifle and a plasma pistol. But how fucking shit is that? That the solution to the game is already figured out. It's also easy to break the game and skip a lot of the levels, but that's just bad fucking design. I should be desiring to engage enemies, not breaking the game or rushing through just to avoid them, regardless of difficulty. Yeah, I know Halo 1 could be broken as well, but I never once wanted to skip fights in that game, only after the fact for a laugh. Now we talk about the real biggest change in the game, removing health as a distinctive element. It was freaking stupid to go to this lazy design, and despite the game still having shields, it's basically just regenerative health. I'm also finding this to be a crutch for lazy developers. First problem is that there's no indication of remaining health. Even though it does recover as fast as shields, there's still no indication of how much is remaining. On top of that, your health is significantly lower than it was in Halo 1, so you'll die soon after losing your shield. A couple of grunts are more than enough to kill you, should you have no shields. An easy fix would be to have a health bar, even if it regenerates itself, or having your HUD colouring fade to yellow then red, then in reverse when recovering. Yeah, I know that the point of shield / regen health is to take cover when you're shot, but Halo 1 had such a perfect balance with its system. Your shields recovered slowly so they would constantly drop and recover during battle. When depleted, you still had enough health to take damage and counter the Covenant. Usually your shields fully recovered at the end of a battle scene. You would even engage the enemy at half shield or whatever if you felt confident that you could take on the challenge with your remaining shields. Not in Halo 2, pretty much every enemy needs its own shield usage, and when depleted you have to pause the game until your shields allow you to keep going. It's really a red light green light situation. So easy to understand, but the complexity is lost. Halo 1 allowed you to keep constantly engaging, recovering a little if you have to, then jump back into the fray. Yeah, well, what if your health is low? That's good! It makes the game more intense sitting on one bar, and you have to rethink your usual strategy as you can die once your shields drop, and have a heart-racing dash to a health pack. And you might be whining, oh, I don't want to look for health packs. No! Health packs encourage exploration and intelligent strategizing during combat. You're low on health or ammo and you go wandering and, holy shit, rocket launcher! Well, what about Halo 2? No health and you're pretty much using the battle rifle and plasma pistol at this point. Or you have enough ammo for the rest of the game and all your plasma pistols are right in front of you. Sucking on your thumb behind walls routes you to a spot, doesn't encourage movement. No need to explore for health or ammo, only thing you'll find exploring is knowledge on how to break the fucking game. And you'll want to break the game because a lot of encounters are fucking imbalanced as shit. This may appear as a simple change, like you really shouldn't be giving much thought about it, but it breaks the whole fucking game. With health, I would be encouraged to try out dual wielding, take out some guys, take a few hits, and counter before I die. Look around for a health pack, find something new, take the first wave from a sniper, quickly dispatch your marksman instead of dying like a chump. And vehicles wouldn't be an overpowered mess as I now can only die when my shields drop. No individual vehicle health either, so I don't need to be smart while using them. Yeah, I know human vehicles were invulnerable in Halo 1 and that was a huge mistake, but that's something they should be correcting, not making it worse. Really, there are only 3 reasons I can think of for this change. Either because they were lazy, the deadline was coming up, or they could not think of a way to make the Arbiter recover lost health. You can't exactly pick up a med pack, that would be way too out of place. Can't design a Covenant version because all players wouldn't be able to recognize it immediately. We've had reports of players only being able to shoot red barrels because they're too stupid to try anything new. Something smart like forcing the player to take damage and then be forced to walk over a Covenant med pack could have fixed this. What other changes are there? Oh yeah, they remove fall damage. Why? I don't know, but it's dumb. You shouldn't be removing elements of common sense. If someone is dumb enough to die from that, then it's their own fault. Ugh, I'm being so negative. I need something positive. Oh, the new physics system. While a tad too loose, they really add to the game. Stuff can be knocked around or shattered all over the area. It really makes an impact when leaving an area and seeing all the damage you've caused. Here's a feature I like. If you look straight down, you'll see your feet. Well, it's not the first or the last. A lot of FPS games today even forget this detail. Although walking sounds like I'm wearing heels instead of armor that weighs a ton. I like how you can actually see on the scope what the sniper is actually looking at. It's nice to added legs and a turret to the Pelican so that it actually lands instead of just hover there. It's nice how the enemy weapons and placement can switch up depending on difficulty settings selected. The amount of extra Easter eggs off the map is nice, even if most players would never look for them. A game is always better with these little extra details, even if the player will most likely never be aware of it. Let's just move on to finish this game. Arby and Ritas decide to knock on Halo's front door with the fist of a scarab, giving the player a Wraith or Spectre to start off. Gee, I wonder what obvious choice I'll be going with. So you move through these rocks in the beach, taking out some brutes, stopping to release some elites if you wish. Coming up to Johnson and friends about to be executed. Doesn't matter if you try to wait it out to see if they programmed it in, they spot you regardless and attack while Al hijacks the Scarab and makes a truce to stop Halo.
Come on, grab a Banshee and give me some cover.
Cover? They removed health, not in danger of dying anytime soon. No, really, all these Covenant forces you fight through can't damage the Scarab at all. There's no danger here, just wait it out.
Stay clear of the door.
No!
You trying to get killed? Give me some room.
Fuck you.
What? Do I have to spell it out for you? Move!
I don't speak alphabet.
Listen, I'm gonna count to 3. 1.
Fine.
Don't say I didn't warn you.
You don't have the guts.
Bastards! Knock, knock!
Well, what do you know? Actually, come to think of it, how is Al controlling that thing? Before they needed several pilots to get it to walk. Now you just need one guy. Maybe it's a stick shift. You come across Tartarus and find out that only humans can activate Halo. So, really, Cassandra chasing the Covenant put the entire universe at risk. Dumb bitch. Nigel is actually allowed some time to speak and reveals to the Big 8 what Halo truly does.
What are they?
Weapons of last resort, built by the Forerunners to eliminate potential flood hosts, thereby rendering the parasite harmless.
And those who made the rings? What happened to the Forerunners?
After exhausting every other strategic option, my creators activated the rings. They and all additional sentient life in 3 radii of the galactic center died, as planned. Would you like to see the...
Realizing how close he came to destroying the universe, his entire worldview and loyalty to the Hierarchs come crashing down to shatter his reality. He decides to lay down his arms and activate Halo because he's fucking one-dimensional. Fucking Tartarus. Come to think of it, why the fuck is his name Tartarus? Tartarus, a part of Greek mythology, is an abyss located far below Hades that is used for punishment and suffering for the wicked, as well as a prison for the Titans, i.e. part of human history. So why the fuck did he share this name? The rest of the Covenant have their own names, but what we usually refer to them as are just nicknames. The Prophets have their own name, and you could surmise that their titles are just the English versions from their alien tongue. So yeah, it makes no fucking sense, and the writers should have probably done a double take on that one. Whatever. Final part of the game is the third boss fight of the game, and for fuck's sake, it's the most annoying one of the game. Fought in the control room that suddenly has 2 extra ring platforms. Huh, okay. I guess we can go with the theory that each Halo is designed differently. Come to think of it, why is this control room out on an island in the middle of nowhere? Sitting within the cliffs makes sense, you don't want anyone to have access to the trigger. But here? Where are the defenses? Ah, fuck it, we've got a pissed off monkey to deal with. Tartarus decides to fight with his gravity hammer, meaning he can only engage at close range. The chances of getting killed by him is rather low, so long as you keep your distance. But what makes this fight annoying is that he casts Divine Shield on himself and is immune to all damage. You have to rely on Al hitting him with a few sniper shots and then unload into him when he's vulnerable. The only threat in this fight is that every time you damage Tartarus, a small squad of brutes will turn up. Most likely to give you ammo, but it's much less difficult than the fucking Prophet fight. To be honest, this fight was actually a lot faster and easier than I remember from back in the day. But it still has a problem that you can't control the pace of the fight. You have to rely on the AI NPC to control the fight. Al will shoot whenever he feels like it, and not when you're ready, so you could miss an opportune moment to strike. Aside from being just straight up boring, on Legendary this fight is fucking bullshit. You have to shoot him so many times, and his shields stay down for such a short amount of time that if you miss it, you'll be cursing. So he dies, and they try to show Christina being a badass and then grabbing the key. Hey, he twitched! Double tap him already! But despite grabbing the key, Halo still activates and everybody dies. The end. Oh wait, we just cut the power. So Nigel explains that a Halo suddenly deactivating will cause all other Halos to switch to standby mode, ready to be fired by the largest remote controller in the universe, the Ark.
Why the Ark? Of course.
Switching to Earth to make the player guess is on Earth. We now switch back to Chief, who prevents Lord Hood from opening fire and killing Truth. What the fuck? Well, instead we move on to the final campaign mission to find the Ark and prevent the Halos from... What the fuck? What the fuck? Are you really going to fucking end the game on a cliffhanger like that? You fucking loot cow milking son of a... Oh wait, I like this tune. So you may take a guess and suggest that I kind of don't like this game. But don't judge my opinions too quickly. Despite my bitching, I don't find this to be a terrible game. I just find it to be less faithful to the first game, and for the longest time, it was my least played Halo game. I'm not one to be against change, but changes should improve the core experience or give the player a new experience to enjoy. Regardless of what those changes are, they still need to be well thought out and thoroughly tested. Dual wielding wasn't as well tested out, and that's why it comes off as so weak. Relying too much on the battle rifle or carbine with no real middle ground, and you might have even fallen into this pattern yourself without realizing it. Removing health as a mechanic simplified the game. They didn't consider how it connected to the overall mechanics of the game. You have to pay close attention to how each part of the game reacts and resonates with each other. If you have to change something, look at the chain reaction it causes and consider if that change is worth it, or if you have to go into overtime to change or tweak everything else in the game. If I had to describe Halo 2 in one word, it would be unfinished. If you look up the development history for this game, it was in a much worse state than Halo 1 was. Their entire build had to be scrapped and pieced together to make the deadline. So much content was cut from the game, story element, weapons, entire levels, and it really does show. The brutes and bosses were added at the last second, and that's why they seem so oddly balanced. The art style is mostly up to taste, but I think the change lost part of the appeal to the franchise. But despite the fact that I think it's inferior to Halo 1, do I still think it's worth playing? Well, yes. On easier settings, it's fun to run around with less care over regenerative health. The environments and level design, despite some annoyances, are actually better and gives the impression you're actually moving. But hopefully you can now see what would seem like a simple tweak to the core concept can have drastic changes, in ways you'd probably never think of.
Silence fills the empty grave now that I have gone. But my mind is not at rest, for questions linger on. I will ask, and you will answer.
Alright. Shoot.
You know, after credit stingers don't work if there's no foreboding or raised questions.